Hello and welcome back to episode number 2 of the newly renovated Outlier Lifestyle Show. We'll get right into it today. So last episode we talk about the foundation of what it means to be a man and the intentions that I had with this series. The intentions of as I enter into this next chapter of manhood, of being a married man, a husband, a provider, a protector, a supporter to my significant other, so we can continue to have a long, prosperous, healthy life filled with love and opportunity and vitality and abundance, and really having the goal and the objective to educate myself, reflect on my life and the lessons that I've learned that have led me up into this point, but also empower men who have the same desires to be themselves, to be the outlier, to show up and put forth the effort required in order to be a updated, enhanced, high quality version of themselves. Let's build this community of men. Let's help educate one another. Let's support one another and understand and realize that much of us are dealing with a lot of these same issues and some of the false beliefs and north stars, so to speak, that we have been mistakenly distracted by. And speaking with myself and what I alluded to in the last episode, the difference between material money versus meaning. And we know there's two really different things. We often get caught up in especially as men, as providers, we get caught up in this ideology, this belief system that we have to have more money, more materials, to have more status. The more status that we have, the more love that we will receive and get. And we forget to ask ourselves the questions of, what is important to us? What is of substance? What is of meaning? What do I value? And how do I actually want to live in alignment with my life? And the three things we talked about last episode were the importance of relationships, all of the different types of relationships, which we'll get into in further episodes. But today we'll primarily be focusing on the relationship with ourselves. The second component of purpose, of living authentically in an alignment with your desires, of expressing yourself and being the person that you are, wearing yourself on your sleeves for the world to see, essentially, and taking the appropriate behaviors and steps necessary to allow yourself to continue to live in alignment of your purpose. And then the third and final area we discussed were the 5 pillars, which we'll be talking about today. The 5 pillars being the foundational behaviors that I, as a man, want to embody so I can navigate the journey of life at an adequate level, and I can ask intelligent, smart questions. I can be in control of my emotions, and I can represent myself at the highest level, at my highest capacity. So much so to where I have a support system. And if you think of a pillar, with this being the 5 pillars, that's exactly what a pillar is, right? It's the base. It's the structural integrity of something. And we understand and realize that, if I don't, as a man, have the structural integrity to be able to withstand high stress circumstances, to be able to navigate this journey of life, if I don't have the fundamentals really hammered down and mastered, the level of success that I can reach, whether it be monetarily, right, or relationships, or materials, any possessions I can accumulate, any status that I can receive, if I don't have the fundamentals mastered to be able to maintain that, inevitably my life will fall apart. So when I talk about these 5 pillars, each one of these pillars are synergistically important, as one another. So without one pillar, we lack all stability. It will fall, it will crumble. And we need to place the value. I need to place the value on all of these pillars, all of these fundamentals, so that my structural integrity is so resilient that when I get the opportunities that I desire for, I will have the tools necessary to be able to handle that shared and accepted responsibility. And that is why we start with the base of the house, so to speak. The 5 pillars are literally the way in which you are behaving from a moment to moment instance. It's how you're living your life and the control in which you live your own life with. We talk about the pillars and we see the first pillar of something that's so important, so lacked, so forgotten about in today's day and age. It's never been more difficult to consistently see this from people. And I know this from experience, of course. The pillar in the importance of presence. In an area, in a time where we are being inundated constantly with objects, with materials, with information being bombarded at us at all levels, and our ability and access to consume information at a rapid rate and a rapid level that is far beyond our capacity to use it. And we use this information in a multitude of ways. We use it to inform ourselves to make more educated decisions, which is probably one of the best benefits of all of the information that's available. But we also use this information as a vice, right? We use these tools, whether it be social media, podcasts, books, television, anything. We use it as a tool, or we can use it as a tool, as a vice, as a way to escape responsibility. And I believe, and I want to believe for myself, that I have the responsibility in this lifetime to be present, to experience life as it's happening, and to not live in a perpetual state of the past and the future. Because the past and the future is always just another moment of the present. So you could be dreading going to work on Monday and it's only Friday afternoon, and you start telling yourself, oh my gosh, I have to go into work on Monday. You know, a feeling that I've experienced in the past before I started working for myself. And you just spend the whole weekend dreading it. And then finally you get there and it's just another moment. It's just another form of present. And then conversely, for the past, when we're living in the past consistently, we are detracting away from our ability to actually see what's happening right now in front of us. And we're recreating that reality, whether it be a trauma, whether it be an insecurity, a fear, something that happened to us in the past. I believe one of the greatest assets of mankind and one of the most pleasurable forms of experiences within the human life form is presence. To be immersed into the moment, to be consumed by exactly what's right in front of you, to not be constantly planning and trying to predict and control the future, but to completely sacrifice yourself, sacrifice your expectations, have desires, have needs, have drives, but to not be so attached to rigid and strict outcomes that may or may not happen. And the more we spend time in the future or in the past, we lack the ability to be present. And of course, this bleeds and impacts all of our areas of lives. When I'm communicating with my significant other or friends or family members, if I'm not in the moment in time in which they're speaking to me, how can I understand them? How can I be more empathetic? How can I learn from this individual if I'm not absorbing the information that's right in front of me? This disconnect begins to occur because we're always somewhere else. And this leads to high levels of stress and friction because we have needs at our disposal right in front of us, yet we're constantly worrying about everything else that's outside of our control. So we begin to neglect the importance of the moment. We begin to neglect the importance of now because we're living in this state of awareness, of outside, of constantly predicting what you think may or may not occur, and most of the time you're not correct. And not only is it the ability to be present and to experience what's happening right in front of you, but it's also the way in which you're representing yourself. So can you be present? Can you be in the moment now, but also what and how do you represent yourself? What is your presence? How do people feel when they're around you? What is your body language? How do you hold yourself? How do you carry yourself? I went to get some blood work done here a couple of weeks ago, and I walked into a waiting room. And in this waiting room, there was about 12 seats. All the seats, except for one, were occupied. And almost every single person sitting down was drooped in their seat with their head down looking at their phone. They had no presence. They were completely detached away from that moment in time. And their body language, their ability to be in the room, to own the room with their presence in their physical space didn't exist. And it was with this awareness that I decided to not sit down, to not go on my phone, to stand with proud posture, and to allow people to feel my presence. Allow people to see that there is a man, there is a person that doesn't have to be constantly bombarded by distractions, by technology. And social media is the biggest challenge because social media is usually putting you in a place that you're not. It's not usually asking you deep, intelligent, informed questions. It's distracting you. It's showing you exotic cars and all the materials you should be having, or all the places you could be traveling, or all of the things that you don't have. And of course, that's not all of social media, but more often than not, that's what we're distracting ourselves with. And of course, I speak from this with self-experiences. So you have to have I don't want to say you have to. Having a awareness to know when you're lacking presence, and to know how your presence is being represented and displayed. Are you constantly scattered and fumbling over your words and rushing from point A to point B, getting angry and upset at every single stoplight that's in your way, constantly speeding and cutting people off, trying to get to that place that's you're going to in the future? You're not there yet, but in your mind you're there, so you need to rush there. So Can we have presence? Can you have presence? Can you master your own presence? Can you let other people feel your own presence? Can you be immersed into the moment without distractions and let the beauty of life unpredictably unravel and unfold right before your eyes? So that is our first pillar of presence. Mastering presence, being aware of your own presence, and understanding it's a given gift and ability that requires attention and detail and effort and work towards maintaining consistently, constantly on a daily basis. This is usually the first thing I begin to neglect when I start slacking a little bit. And then we have the second pillar, which really goes hand in hand with presence, and that is temperance. Temperance, the ability to control yourself, to have self-control, to not be overly emotional, so much so to where you're constantly being thrown around and pulled and pushed and driven by the base level of emotions that you're experiencing. You're not thinking logically. You're a firecracker, so to speak, that's constantly popping, pop, 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 and going off. And any one thing that damages or rattles or brings up old insecurities or old traumas or old ways of behaving and acting, anything that occurs in those areas, you begin to be explosive, like the firecracker. You explode, bam, you get set off. It's like an electrical charge, and you just can't control yourself. It's this visceral reaction, and chaos ensues. You don't think logically. You can't speak logically. It's hard to act logically because you're being driven by this chaotic sea storm of emotions. And this is the value and the importance of temperance, because within my own life, I have found myself in areas of times where I was not in control of my emotions, where I couldn't think logically. And as a result, it would end in some sort of conflict or confrontation. And I was constantly being and riding on this emotional roller coaster, so to speak, lacking steadiness, lacking thoughtfulness, lacking moderation and self-restraint, and being able to be the wise man who stands still in the face of chaos, and to be able to think in a way that most cannot, the wise warrior. And that's what the best leaders in my mind do. They don't panic when something doesn't go right. They're aware of their own traumas, insecurities, and fears. That way, they're not being unconsciously controlled and subdued by over-emotional reactions. So with temperance, there is this level of steadiness, of ease, so to speak, of flow. You're not trying to fight the storm. You're allowing it to happen. You're allowing the winds and the waves to crash into you, because you know inevitably they will veer into the opposite direction. The wave will come back into the ocean, and the wind will shift. You know that because you've experienced it before. And if you can just stay calm throughout this moment, you'll be able to actively access a way in which to react that a lot of people lack. You'll be able to take the appropriate next step while seeing the bigger picture. and knowing that it's in alignment with who you are. You won't take actions that you regret, that you will inevitably or eventually regret, because you're aware of the actions that you're taking. And throughout my own life, the worst communicators that I've been around, the toughest relationships I've been in, the other end of it, or within my own self, the way I acted or I behaved, there was a lack of temperance. There was a lack of discipline. There was a lack of methodical approach in nature. Things were always chaotic, yelling, screaming, punching walls, right? Constant display of aggression. Especially with men, we are physically an extremely dominant species and an extremely strong species. And more often than not, if we don't have the tools to control ourselves, we will display our uncertainty, our insecurities with physical destruction. So can we have this level of self-control, whether it be with the substances we use, as the relationships that we have, the ability to be loyal to your significant other, the ability to have things in self-restraint and control to where you can enjoy the finer things in life, but you are not over-consuming them to your demise. You realize that there is a balance and a semblance and a structure of everything that's happening at all times, and that it's our job to educate ourselves and to understand how to build strong, competent relationships with all of these things, whether it be, psychedelics, whether it be sexual intercourse, whether it be, name your favorite bad food to eat, whether it be technology. We have a level of awareness to employ delayed gratification and to see what's important to us and to keep ourselves and our behaviors in control. And that is the second pillar. So now we have this level of presence where we can own and be in the moment. But now, as we're in this moment with the second pillar, we can control ourselves in that moment. We have self-discipline. We have temperance. Those being the first two pillars that I really find extremely important. The third pillar, again, playing into all of these things, can you be present? Can you have temperance in that presence? But also with the third pillar, can you display acts of courageousness? Courage. The third pillar is courage. Can you, in a very difficult emotional time, make a decision that is in alignment with what you value and what's important to you? To live a life of fulfillment, of authenticity, of purpose, of passion, of pursuit of what's important to you, you are inevitably going to meet resistance. It is a biological need. It's a certainty of life. You will meet resistance. And the emotions that you experience when you meet resistance, the fear of judgment, the fear of denial, the imposter syndrome, the insecurity, the fear of uncertainty for the future. What will happen to me if I do this? The fear of finances. What's going to happen to my money if I take that job that I really love and I really want, and I quit this job that's not fulfilling me? The fear of judgment of, wearing those clothes you really want to wear, but you're just not sure how people are going to react or behave when they see you wearing this really different pair of shoes that's outside of the norm. Do you have the courage to look that resistance into the eye and consciously decide that this is important enough to me to not allow this to get in the way. And I'm going to overcome these emotions of fear, of insecurity, of imposter syndrome, of judgment. I'm going to consciously embrace these emotions, overcome them, and then express myself, my values, in the highest, deepest level possible. Courage. Do you have the capacity to actively pursue the things that you value and overcome the obstacles that are standing in the way of you living in a way in alignment with your values? That is courage. And in times in the past when I have neglected courage, I have felt less of myself. I have suppressed myself and was too fearful at times to express how I actually felt and to speak my mind, to speak up, so to speak, to really put myself in those vulnerable positions. And as I felt less of myself from withholding who I was, essentially, I began to resent myself, and I began to have this level of uncertainty because I wasn't living in alignment with the person that I wanted to be. And I believe this is where, for a lot of us, stress occurs, friction occurs, stress being the signal, stress being the alarm system, the ringing of the bell, so to speak, saying you are not on the right track. You're not living in alignment with what's important to you. You're neglecting your needs. You're getting stepped on and pushed over. You're a yes man. You're constantly trying to please others at a detriment of yourself. You embody this level of selflessness, but all that really means is you're just less of yourself, right? Selfless. You are less of yourself. And maybe if we start with the courage to be ourselves, and we can have this cup, so to speak, and we can fill it full of positive emotions, so much so to where those positive emotions are overflowing outside of that cup. And that's exactly what people are seeing. They're not seeing the empty cup of lack of fulfillment, of lack of self. They're seeing what they see is the overflowment, the residual residue in excess that's pouring out of you because you are so positive, you are so aligned, you are so sure of who you are, of how you're living and the way you're doing it. It's an inspiration to others. And just by being yourself, just by living in alignment with who you are, it provides the opportunity for other people to see how to do it for themselves. And not only that, it is an inspiration. It's a beacon, so to speak, where people sit in awe from close, from afar, and they are inspired by the way in which you live life. So that's courage. That's courage. We're going to need to employ courage daily. It takes courage to wake up and get out of bed every single day. It takes courage to hop in the cold shower in the morning. It takes courage to go out of your way to lay down and meditate. It takes courage to get up and go to the gym. It takes courage to work for yourself. It takes courage to put yourself in a position where you might be rejected. It takes courage. We need to have courage. I need to have courage if I want to be the man that I'm proud of, that I can lay my head down when I go to sleep and know that I did everything I could that day to live in alignment with who I was. So we could see how all of these pillars are interconnecting with one another, and they're cross beams, so to speak. They're intersecting with one another in of importance, and they all have a weight that they're carrying, and without that weight, they will inevitably fall and crumble. So we have presence, we have temperance, we have courage, and then we have the fourth pillar of vitality. The fourth pillar of vitality, of health. Do you have a physical, healthy, resilient, robust surplus of health that is your platform from which you operate from? Because the lack of health will put you in perpetual states of pain, perpetual states of uncertainty for the future. If you are disconnected from your own health, if you are overweight, and if you're insecure of the way you look, how can you be present? How can you be in the moment when you're constantly worrying about what the person across from you might be thinking about you? If your low back is in pain and your neck is tight, how can you enjoy that live show with your significant other when you're just sitting and writhing in pain? How can you experience deep forms of presence by getting into nature, by hiking and being immersed into your environment, if you have a body that doesn't allow you to do that? If we're constantly being in this perpetual state of lack of health, it affects us emotionally. We experience deep levels of pain. It affects our sleep. It affects our mood. And then it starts bleeding into our temperance. We're fatigued. We're tired. We're in pain. So we'll just search for anything to allow ourselves to escape that pain because we lack the courage necessary to overcome the lack of physical health. Physical health is everything. My good friend Travis last weekend before a mountain bike ride said, the man who has a healthy body wants to do everything. The person who lacks a healthy body just wants a healthy body. And I have seen throughout my own profession and my own experience of life, when I neglect my physical health, everything else drastically decreases. My experience of life plummets. My self-esteem plummets. I feel like I'm missing out. I feel like I'm doing myself a disservice, a disjustice. Again, the alarm system is ringing, and I sit and I writhe in what I think or what I know I need. And that is a physical, resilient, healthy body that can physically maneuver in any setting, situation, or circumstance. It can help protect physically in certain stressful environments. So you can use your body as a tool, whether it be helping somebody come up off the ground, an old lady that fell and hurt herself, or a more dire circumstance, whether it be a car crash and you have to get somebody out of the car. You have a physical body that is capable of protecting yourself and others, your significant other, your friends, your family. You're not this overweight mass of waste, of decay that can't even lead itself, let alone lead others. When people see you, they understand that you have a level of self-respect just by the way that you look. And I'm not saying you have to be muscle-bound and jacked out of your mind. God knows that I'm not. But you have a level of self-hygiene that is that represents somebody who takes care of themselves, that takes themselves seriously. Because if you don't take yourself seriously, who the hell is, right? So this health, this vitality is so important for a meaningful, fulfilled life. And we need to constantly be improving ourselves in a well-rounded nature. It's not just the muscle-bound meathead. It's being able to move your body in a functional manner. Can you get up and off of the ground with, smoothness and fluidity? Can you, if you're an able-bodied person, can you touch your toes while standing? Can you squat and get up off the ground? Do your joints operate and function at a high level? So it's the strength, but it's also the mobility. It's not just being able to move weight, but being able to move your body in space. And then, of course, too, the cardiovascular element. Do you get out of breath when you take 4, 5, 6 steps? Or when you get invited to go on a hike, do you say no because it tires you out too much? Or do you have a good cardiovascular system, a healthy heart, literally the life force that pumps blood and oxygen that keeps you alive? Are you taking care of the thing that allows you to breathe and experience this life? That is your heart. Are you conditioning your body, your cardiovascular system? And it's with these 3 components of the cardiovascular, of the strength, of the mobility, that really allows you to maximize your life experience, but also to help others do the same. So of course we need health. Without health, what do we have? We have death. We have the absence of life. Master your health. I vow to master my health and become a beacon of physical resilience that I, myself, and others can rely on. So we have so far our first 4 pillars of courage, of temperance, of vitality. Of course, you got to be healthy. You have to be fit. And then we have presence, being able to be in the moment. And our last pillar, the superpower that allows all of these things to thrive and optimize at a maximal level, that is of presence. Excuse me, not presence. That is of excellent communication skills. Do you have the ability to articulate yourself at a high level? Can you articulate yourself at a high level so people can understand you? They can understand who you are and what's important to you, so people can really see and know what you value. If I can't express who I am, I will live in purgatory because I will never be understood. The expectations that I have for my environment and around myself will never be met. I will be in a perpetual state of disarray, of feeling disconnected, because nobody knows who I am, what's important to me, and what I value. Can you do that for yourself? Can you represent yourself with your language, with your words? Can you articulate yourself at a high level? But more importantly, can you create space to allow others to do the same? Can you employ radical empathy? Can you give people the space and time to freely speak how they feel? Can you absorb that? Can you listen to it? Can you reiterate it to them? Can you make people feel seen, heard, and understood? Like I said, deploying radical empathy. So now you can see their expectations. Now you can understand what their values are. And of course, they don't have to be completely aligned. In reality, all values are not aligned with everybody. We all have different things in our lives that are important to us. But can you give people the space and time to express how and what's important to them, see that, and respect that individual? Respect and understand that their values differ from yours and that they may not need to be the same. And you can learn from that. You can change your ideology and your belief systems from that, but you could also stay firm and true in what you believe in while still respecting the other partner's belief system and the way they operate and view life. And this is the harmonizer. This is what allows you to build and foster deep relationships. This is what allows you to lead at a high level, to set clear expectations and standards for yourself, for your relationships, for your family, to be able to articulate that and give people the space to do the same. Now, everybody you're coming into contact with, for the most part, you understand one another. You feel more connected. One of the most important feelings of life, the feeling of connection, the feeling of connectedness, of knowing that you're not alone. Now your relationships can prosper. Your life can prosper. So it's with these 5 pillars of communication, of presence, of courage, of vitality, and of temperance that we have the behavior system necessary to allow ourselves to navigate through life. And we understand that all of these pillars are synergistic with one another. Again, the crossbar example, they're all crossbars. They all intersect with one another. They all rub shoulders with one another. And without one of these 5 pillars, we will have a vast decrease in our production capacity, our capacity and our potential for thriving, for greatness will be vastly diminished without these. And every single day, the challenge is to employ all of these pillars constantly. And we understand that we will always be met with resistance, and that's why we employ courage. We'll always have times where we'll want to be over emotional and angry, and that's why we have temperance. There will always be times where we don't understand exactly quite what's happening, so we communicate that and we articulate that. That's communication. There will always be temptations of bad health, bad food, whatever it may be. But that's why we have temperance, but also vitality, and we know the importance of taking care of our own health and our own body. And we have the presence. We have the ability to be in the moment to where we can think rationally and consciously so we can control and navigate all of these circumstances. Okay, the 5 pillars are my behavior system. It's how I fundamentally approach life. And it takes constant work, like a garden. You're constantly nurturing and watering and feeding and adjusting to the sunlight, to the weather, to the temperatures, to the humidity. You're constantly nourishing the garden of self. And that is where we'll end this episode and continue to reiterate the importance of these things. And today we tapped into the 5 pillars. In future episodes, we'll get into relationships. We will get into purpose and some other creative outlets. Thank you so much for listening. If any of this resonated with you, please feel free to leave a 5-star review if you believe it's a 5-star show, and share this with any other man you think this may resonate with, somebody who you think may actually listen to this and take away some tangible tasks or goals or objectives that they can utilize throughout their navigation of life and becoming the best man possible, becoming the outlier, living the outlier lifestyle. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your day.